Hello, everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today because we are tackling something incredibly profound yet super practical. We're going to look at a biblically grounded model for helping the weak, the needy, and the vulnerable. If you've ever felt that tug on your heart to really make a difference, but honestly weren't quite sure of the actual steps to take, well, you are in exactly the right place.
Look, we all want to help those in need, right? But where do we actually start? It's kind of a paralyzing feeling, isn't it? You see a massive need, you feel a ton of compassion, but the situation just seems so unbelievably complex that you freeze up. It is totally overwhelming to figure out the right way to help without, causing more harm or just throwing a quick band-aid on a really deep problem. What we actually need is a simple, highly memorable framework to guide our actions.
So here's our agenda for today. 1. Look closely. 2. Truly listen. 3. Empathize and understand. 4. Pray together. And 5. Meet their needs.
Okay, let's really dive into this. Look, listen, understand, pray, and meet needs. To easily remember this, we're using the helping hand model today. Think of a fully open hand, 5 fingers representing these 5 sequential actions. Keep this in your mind because it's going to serve as our map for the rest of this explainer.
Step 1. Look closely.
The very first thing we have to do is be intentionally on the lookout. Why? Because the vulnerable and marginalized are incredibly easy to overlook. Society naturally tends to notice the people who demand our attention. But the vulnerable? Well, they're generally not powerful. They aren't loud. They aren't wealthy. And because they completely lack power, volume, and wealth, they just fade right into the background of our super busy lives. If we aren't actively searching for them, we will literally walk right past them. We've got to be on the lookout.
This brings us straight into the book of James, chapter 2. Here, we get this incredibly powerful contrast about partiality. James specifically warns believers against paying special attention to a guy wearing a flashy gold ring and fine clothing, while telling a poor man in shabby clothes to go stand far off or just sit on the floor at their feet. James basically asks, hey, haven't you just made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? He reminds us that God has chosen the poor in the world to be rich in faith. When we judge people purely on appearances, we are dishonoring them.
And that brilliantly illustrates the core of our first step, which is perfectly backed up by James 1:27. It says, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction. Pure religion isn't just about what happens inside the 4 walls of a building. It absolutely requires us to actively look for and visit those in affliction. It's an active, seeking kind of love.
Step 2, truly listen. Once we've looked around and found those in need, we have to avoid a massive trap. Assuming you already know what the person needs or what they're struggling with. Please don't do this. Instead, take the time to visit them and genuinely listen to their story. Slow your pace down. Actually sit down with them. Invest the real time required to hear their unique narrative. You just cannot rush this process.
Now, as you listen, here are some things you should be trying to discover silently. What do they actually need help with? Ask yourself, what's their biggest struggle, their deepest fear, or their biggest obstacle? But hey, don't just look for the negative. Ask yourself, what are their strengths? What resources do they already have? What do they love? What is their testimony? These questions uncover the real obstacles and build genuine human connection.
Step 3. Empathize and understand. This step marks the critical shift from just hearing facts to truly understanding another human being. Empathy is learning the art of putting yourself in another person's shoes. But I've got to give a massive warning here. Resist the temptation to instantly relate their situation back to your own. Do not assume you completely know their problem just because you went through something kind of similar once. Instead, really seek to see life and the world through their eyes and their unique experience. Make it about them, not you. For the ultimate, perfect model of empathy, we look straight to Jesus. Hebrews 4:15 says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin." Hebrews 2 also beautifully reminds us that because he himself suffered when tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. Jesus didn't just watch us from afar, he stepped right into our shoes.
And because of that amazing fact, we can empathize with others. 2 Corinthians 1 teaches us that God comforts us in all our affliction, specifically so that we might be able to comfort those who are in any affliction. It helps incredibly if you have suffered yourself and are willing to be honest about your own struggles. We rely on the comfort we've already received from God to equip us to comfort others in their unique pain.
Step 4. Pray together.
So we've looked, we've listened, we've understood. Now what? Now we must invite God's power and wisdom directly into the situation. There are a few dimensions to this. First, pray for them, privately. Second, pray with them, right there alongside them. Third, seek God's wisdom in how to best help them. And fourth, pray specifically that God would meet their very real needs and care for them.
This next point is absolutely crucial. Our ultimate goal is that people must trust in God to meet all their needs, not us. Listen, we are just the helping hand. God is the actual provider. If they become solely dependent on us, we have completely missed the mark. Prayer beautifully shifts the focus from our very limited resources to God's unlimited power.
Step 5. Meet their needs. All right, this is the action phase. Our prayers, our listening, and our empathy must ultimately translate into tangible, concrete help. James 2 asks such a piercing question here. If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? Seriously, giving someone spiritual well-wishes without practical bodily action is completely useless. It just shows a total lack of true care. So, what we actually do, we step up and meet needs as God directs and as you are able. Showing we truly care means taking concrete, real-world steps, and honestly, sometimes that means making real sacrifices to help them. It's not just about giving out of our leftover convenience, it's about giving out of our deep compassion.
We also see this amazing biblical principle of fairness found in 2 Corinthians 8. The Apostle Paul writes that this isn't about giving others an easy ride while burdening yourself unnecessarily. Not at all. It's about a mutual exchange over time. Right now, your current abundance is meant to supply their present lack. There is this beautiful fairness and balance within the body of believers when we actually step up to meet physical needs.
And how exactly should we give? 2 Corinthians 9 spells it out clearly. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. We are supposed to do this action step joyfully. And the promise attached to it is just incredible. God is able to make all grace abound to you, so you will have all sufficiency to abound in every good work. He literally provides the grace we need to help. So, let's bring the whole shebang together. The open hand model. I highly encourage you to lock these 5 actions into your memory. 1. Look closely for the marginalized. 2. Listen to their story without jumping to assumptions. 3. Understand by putting yourself in their shoes. 4. Pray with them and for God's provision. And 5. Meet their needs cheerfully and sacrificially.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly vital question. Whose life will your helping hand change today? The framework is simple, it is entirely biblical, and it's right in front of you. You don't have to be overwhelmed by the complexity of it all anymore. Just open your hand, step out, and let God use you to care for the vulnerable. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Now go out there and put this into practice.